Hey there guys, Ethan here again, and in today's training I want to be covering two of the formulas and frameworks that I find to be the drivers of ultimately financial independence, or your ability to accumulate assets that are going to lead to your financial independence. So the first formula or framework that I want to give you has to do with your savings ratio. Now, ultimately, your savings ratio is going to be the thing that determines how soon and how well you do when it comes to achieving financial independence. And ultimately, your savings ratio is simply saying it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. And the more that you can increase your savings ratio, the more that you can have left over after typical expenses, after typical savings, or after typical spending, and the more you can actually save for your future, the easier it's going to be to achieve your financial dreams, obviously. But it's definitely something that is difficult for me and humans and my spouse and my friends and my clients to do in general. So I'm assuming it's probably difficult for you as well, because we're humans and we want to be able to get immediate gratification. We like to consume things, we like to spend. So it's very difficult to delay gratification, pay our future self, and ultimately save more money. But it is going to be the thing that separates the haves from the have-nots. So when it comes to your savings ratio, just think about it like this. You take your gross income, whatever that may be. Let's say it's $10,000 a month. Let's take out our expenses. Let's say that's $8,000 a month. This leaves us with $2,000 a month. We take our $2,000 a month divided by our gross income, so $10,000 a month, and that's going to give us our savings ratio. And in this equation, it is 20%. Now, if you can have a savings ratio of 20%, that is good, but you also want to work on increasing your savings ratio. And now maybe you do this by decreasing your expenses, or you do this by increasing your income. These are the two levers you can pull. You can increase income, keep expenses the same, or you can decrease expenses and keep income the same, or you can do both. You can increase income, decrease expenses, or increase income and only slightly increase expenses, so you can increase ultimately your savings ratio over time. Now, your savings ratio is going to feed into this next equation, which is the three variables that are going to lead to your financial independence, which is time plus money plus rate of return. These three variables are going to equal your financial independence. So the sooner you start, the more you can put away, and the higher rate of return you can get, the easier it's going to be to achieve financial independence. Now, your savings ratio specifically is speaking to the money aspect of this equation, right? The more that you can save, the more money that you can put into think back to our last lesson, the bucket that's holding your assets, so you can accumulate assets that go up in value and produce income. The more you can put towards that, the easier it's going to be to achieve your level of financial independence or financial freedom. The sooner that you can start this, the better and easier you're going to be able to achieve financial independence. Think about it. If you have 100 years to save for a goal versus you have 5 years to save for a goal, what do you think is going to be easier? Which example or which scenario is going to be easier to hit that specific goal if that goal is the same number? Having time is one of the most valuable assets because it allows you to take advantage of compounding interest. Compounding interest means your money's making money, and then that money that it makes you is making more money, and it begins to have this exponential effect where you may not see a lot of progress in the first few years of investing, but over time and as you accumulate assets, you start to see massive progress. Because think about this. It's all about getting your money to double. So if you can get your money to double more times throughout your life, if you have just one extra double or two extra doubles, then your peers, your friends, your other version of yourself, because we don't want to compare ourselves necessarily to everybody else, but we want to understand, if I have an extra 10 years where I can double my money, if I have $1,000, or let's say I have $1 million and I can double it to 2 million, versus the other person who has $1 million but doesn't have the extra time to double it, it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to get to the same level of financial independence versus having more time on your hands. And then the last variable is rate of return. And this is the rate that you are receiving from your investment. So this is actually the variable that most people end up trying to focus on when it comes to investing, when it comes to financial planning. Everybody wants their money to be making money for them and are trying to get the highest rate of return possible. And ultimately, one of the big lessons that I would love to leave you with in this training is that rate of return is actually the variable that has the least effect on your financial independence. What's more powerful is the amount of time that you have invested and the amount of money that you put into your investments. The other side of this is that rate of return is seemingly out of your control. It is one of the only variables in this 3-variable equation that is actually not something that you can control. You can do your due diligence, you can do your research, you can try to choose an investment vehicle or an investment opportunity that is going to give you the best rate of return possible with the least amount of risk, but none of it is guaranteed. Investing is never guaranteed. We're always subject to risk, and there's always the chance that you can lose principal. You can't control what the other share members or shareholders want. You can't control marketing. You can't control economic conditions. You can't control competitors. You can't control the business or the asset that you're investing in for the most part. You know, there's some exceptions, sweat equity at home, things like that, but there's a lot that's out of your control. And so when things are out of your control, we believe there's no use spending time and energy trying to manipulate it, try to change it. Do your due diligence, get a baseline in order, but focus on the areas of the equation that you can actually control, which is money. Your savings ratio. You can always go out and make more money, and you can always work on decreasing your expenses. Either of which you do will allow you to increase your savings ratio and ultimately increase the amount of money that you put into whatever investment you choose. And next is time. You can always start now or start sooner than you want to, and you can always extend the goal or the time horizon to reaching a specific end destination, thus giving yourself more time. So the lesson here is time and money are in your control. Rate of return is not. Focus on time and money. They actually have the biggest impact on your overall success. It all comes down to your savings ratio, because you could be making $1 million a year or $10 million a year, but if you're spending more than what you were making, you are never going to be able to achieve financial independence, because there's not going to be any money to compound over time, no matter what rate of return you get. So understanding these 2 basic formulas or frameworks is going to help you understand how you can actually achieve financial independence and success for you and your family. If you guys like this video, if you find it helpful, click on to the next one. I got more for you, and I look forward to catching you in the next one.